In this video, guys, we're going to look at generating trade ideas from daily observations. Stay tuned. Hey traders and investors, a warm welcome to you. So, can you generate profitable trade ideas just from your day-to-day observations, walking down the street, seeing what people are wearing, seeing what shops they're going into, seeing what's advertising on buses, seeing on trains, driving along, seeing what vans are on the road, that kind of stuff? Is it possible to generate trade ideas? Now, people say, no, you can't generate trade ideas. Others say, actually, it can. And I'm in the latter camp. I think that it can generate a seed. Now, obviously, this is going to be potentially for a longer term trade, possibly an investment, that kind of thing. But let me just give you a story. So I went to a UK kind of, I suppose, holiday camp, if you like. It's like in the forest. It's called Centre Parks, for those of you who are aware. It's UK holidays for young families. They come from the Netherlands, and it's kind of the demographic there, I guess, is we're not talking super premium. I mean, for a UK holiday, it's probably on the upper end of the scale. We're not talking like a Monaco thing here, and we're not talking, really cheap stuff. It's somewhere in the middle, and people are paying a reasonable amount of money for these chalets in the woods, and it's all enclosed off, and it's good for young children to cycle around. Those are activities to do and that kind of stuff. So that gives you an idea of the demographic. I guess you could call it aspirational middle class is probably, if we're going to pigeonhole it. And these people were all wearing Super Dry gear, which is a brand that's big in the UK. It was big in the UK. I'm not sure where they are abroad, but just doing this story, I was just noticing that everyone, these young families, the mums and dads, were wearing this Super Dry, like waterproof gear and Super Dry gear. So it's kind of semi-active, because this is the kind of place it is. It's like there's activities there. There's like rock climbing and rope swinging, archery, and you get the idea. So these people are a little bit more active anyway, and they're wearing this gear. And I thought, I've not seen this gear for a while. It's really kind of a lot of intensity, a real kind of concentration of people wearing this. And specifically at the park that I was in, there's about 5 or 6 in the UK. Specifically at that one, there would have been people from Scotland, the Northeast and the Northwest coming. So it wasn't just a regional fashion. It was generally people from all over the country wearing this gear. And so it got me thinking, this might be an interesting stock. Everyone is wearing it. And I kind of made a joke. I was like, listen, everyone's wearing Super Dry, Super Dry, Super Dry everywhere. Looked at the stock was doing nothing. Dismissed it, carried on, enjoyed the rest of the holiday, went back, carried on trading DAX, crude oil, whatever I was doing at the time. Fast forward kind of a few months later, Super Dry stock has ripped to the upside. Now, concentrate or compare that to recently. This is why I'm doing the video. Recently, I see everyone's wearing Under Armour gear. In the gym, they've got it. On the street, they've got it. It just seems to be going crazy. It seems to be way more popular than Nike at the moment, specifically in the UK. So look at these two examples. Now, the only time you would have an edge with this is if you thought that you could see a change in trend before it had appeared in the stock. Because if this Super Dry stuff, had appeared already and they reported the earnings and said, you know what, people are buying this, it's selling like hotcakes, this demographic that we're going for is just chomping it up, and look at our numbers, the stock price would have already factored that in. And you don't have an edge then because you're already trading behind the curve. The only time you'd have an edge is if that wasn't yet factored in. So in this example, in the Super Dry example, it was almost like a perfect storm because the price had gone down, the price had been beaten up, and then I'd seen this kind of massive uptake in probably what the demographic they were targeting were wearing this gear. And then that hadn't yet been reported in the earnings, which are coming up in a couple of weeks. Of course, the earnings reports, they say, hey, we're doing really, really well. The stock then jumps, then potentially rallies off that into the next quarter, as it gains momentum and as they kind of get traction with the campaigns or whatever they're doing, the products and what have you in the merchandise. So that's one thing. If you've got, you need to check that. So what you would do is this: you would go and check and see, okay, have they reported earnings? What were the last earnings? How did it relate? Is it a big market share? Because going back to that Under Armour example, it's not as useful because Under Armour is a US company and the US revenue is their biggest slice. UK is a small slice, so it doesn't really bear any fruit if the UK is doing well, because they might not be doing well in the US. It might be a different thing. It might have already boomed up there and they're kind of coming over into Europe, different parts of Europe. So it's a different thing. I didn't feel like there's an edge there, and sure enough, there isn't. They're worrying about what they're doing over in the US at the moment. But with the Super Dry example, there was, because the UK was a big market for them. So Let's go back to how you would use as a trading idea. The point is, if you observe something, let's say your shop is unusually busy. Let's say, like I said, there's a brand that you see all the time, which you don't normally see, whatever it may be, you need to go and see if it's already priced in. Now, you don't know for certain, but let's say the stock has been beaten up. You can kind of make a judgment and go, okay, well, the last earnings said that they weren't selling hardly anything, but I see different because I see all this new gear on people and it looks relatively new. It's a new season, so I'm going to expect that these guys have bought it probably in the last month, 2, 3 or so. So it probably wasn't recorded in the last quarter. So perhaps this winter season or whatever you are may well be a blowout season. So now you could potentially trade on that. Now, this is a seed of an idea. You still have got to look at the chart and decide where your risk reward ratio is, where you want to go in, etc. But it can, I think, be the seed of an idea that then allows you to go in and do your analysis on the chart, work out where the earnings are and think, well, actually the thesis is that this isn't yet baked into the price. If I can find a good place to go long, keep my risk managed, then it's as good a shot as any. You're obviously going to be cautious about how much you're investing, as well as you would always do, but it could be the kind of thing that draws it to your attention. So you're not going to blindly buy or sell something just because something's empty or something's full. It's maybe likely you're already baked in right behind the curve, but when you see something that you think is potentially new, like that super dry example, it's perhaps worth an investigation. What's happened previously? What's the general sentiment? Read through some articles, read through some news flow and just see and just think, is that what you're seeing? Does that make sense? Or actually, could you be on the kind of forefront of a potential turnaround, a new trend in something that has changed in the company and you're seeing it actually on the front line? So anyway, guys, those are generating trade ideas from daily observations. Let me know in your comment section below if you spotted anything either now or recently where you thought, you know what, that's made me think about going and checking a chart, digging into it, and you've actually done all right out of it. All right, take care, whatever you're doing. See you next one. Bye-bye.